Advanced U.S. weaponry is transforming Lebanon's armed forces and empowering a vital ally in the Middle East. The most recent arrivals are these 8 Bradley fighting vehicles, which will eventually number a total of 32. They alone represent a $100 million investment. But that's just a small sample of the more than $1.4 billion worth of military equipment and training the U.S. has given Lebanon since 2006. Washington's been trying to tilt the balance of military power in the country away from Iran-backed Hezbollah, which it considers a terrorist organization.
The Lebanese Armed Forces need to maintain their rightful place as the sole provider of security and stability to the Lebanese people.
But critics say the U.S. strategy is failing. Some point to the Lebanese Prime Minister's official visit to Washington last month.
Lebanon is on the front lines in the fight against ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hezbollah.
U.S. President Donald Trump faced backlash for seeming to misunderstand basic Lebanese politics. Lebanon is on the front line against Daesh and Al-Qaeda-linked groups in Syria, but Hezbollah is a member of Lebanon's democratically elected government, and many say the Iranian-backed militants have infiltrated the army. The Lebanese army recently made significant gains against Daesh in its desert border with Syria, with U.S. Special Forces fighting alongside. It follows less than a week after Hezbollah pushed out an Al-Qaeda-linked militant group from Lebanon and increased its standing as a legitimate defense force in the country. But it has also raised questions about the U.S.'s long-term strategy in Lebanon and what exactly it hopes to accomplish by empowering a regional ally that many say is infiltrated by an adversary. Basil Rayhan, the Newsmakers.
Well, joining me now is Kamal Wasneh. He's the founder of the Center for American Strategic Studies in Beirut. And Matthew Brodsky, a senior fellow at the Security Studies Group in Washington, D.C. Thank you both for joining us. Matthew, if I could start with you, what makes you think that American weapons being supplied to Lebanon's legitimate army will find their way into Hezbollah's hands?
Well, first of all, they're fighting together. The two organizations are closely coordinating operations together. We've seen during the Martyrs' Day military parade that Hezbollah hosted in Qusayr that they were, showing their American-made weapons there before. So we know that there's coordination and cooperation on many levels, and not to mention the time in April where the LAF actually chaperoned Hezbollah to the border region with Israel in flouting the UN resolution that ended the 2006 war between Israel and Hezbollah. They're working together, coordinating together, and the U.S. is unfortunately allowing this to happen.
Kamal Wasneh, very simple evidence put forward by Matthew Brodsky in broad daylight, isn't it?
Well, obviously, we have the Lebanese army. The Lebanese army are fighting their war against extremists, against terrorists, against Daesh. And we have on the other side, Hezbollah are fighting also the same terrorist organization, Daesh, and all other terrorist organizations. The fact that Qusayr, it's on the Syrian side, it's not on the Lebanese side. So basically, the weapons that the army it has, it's their own. It's backed by the United States, supplied by the United States, and the army and the ammunition and all other weaponry that the Hezbollah has, it comes from the Syrian and the army. So there's no shortage on the part of Hezbollah to actually get weapon from the Lebanese army, nor the Lebanese army volunteer their weapon to anybody else. They're independent. But on certain level, yes, there is coordination because it's one front, and that's part of the platform of the government. That it's stated very clearly that there's the people, the resistance, and the army. What they mean the resistance here, they basically still the weapon of Hezbollah. Is nothing that is not clear at this point. But despite all that, the army operate independently and away from every other group in Lebanon.
But Kamal, just to pick you up on the original question, which was that US weapons could find their way via the Lebanese armed forces into Hezbollah's hands. Are you saying that's not going to happen?
No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It never happened before. This is a propaganda is being launched somewhere. It doesn't have any base or merits. Basically, what's basically the Lebanese army that is supplied by the United States stay with the Lebanese army. The recent confrontation between Hezbollah and Nusra, they found an American army tank, and they actually took it from al-Nusra and gave it back to the Lebanese army. So this is a case where they actually got hold out of a tank, M113, from al-Nusra, and they didn't keep it because they don't need it. In my estimate, Hezbollah has enough weapon and ammunition, and everybody can see that in the daylight and during that operation that they have a lot of weapons. Probably the Lebanese army don't have that much firepower.
Matthew Brodsky, a couple of times off camera we caught you chuckling there. There we go, thank you. What exactly do you find so amusing?
Well, I mean, he pretty much suggested about a minute ago that the armored personnel carriers that Hezbollah was using in the parade on the Syrian side of the border came from weapons that the United States provided Assad? I don't think so. Look, these weapons are clearly given to the LAF.
No, this is not what I said.
He did not say Assad. I'm sorry, Kamal Wasni, just clarify your point.
He misunderstood the concept.
Yeah, Kamal Wasni, just clarify that point.
Al-Nusra, when they attack, yes, when al-Nusra attacked the Lebanese army a while ago, they actually took some of these armament and took it with them. When Hezbollah fought al-Nusra and defeated al-Nusra, he actually seized that M113 and gave it back to the army. That's what I said.
Matthew?
That's different from your story.
Okay, right. The fact is, from the LAF, if he's going to claim, which is likely true, that the LAF is staying within Lebanon, while Hezbollah has obviously been all over Syria since 2013, the fact is LAF is protecting Hezbollah's flank. And that's what it's doing in Lebanon, and that's what allows Hezbollah its room to maneuver in Syria. Now, the United States from 2009 arrested a number of Hezbollah operatives here in the country, in the U.S., that were looking to purchase M4 carbine rifles and looking to buy M200 sniper rifles and radio equipment. Now, the U.S. has basically fulfilled this shopping list for Hezbollah by giving it to the Lebanese Armed Forces. Now, again, when the Lebanese Armed Forces chaperoned Hezbollah to the border with Israel in April with a, quote, environmental NGO, which is no such thing, and set up observation points and took pictures with shoulder-launched missiles that Hezbollah had, it's pretty obvious that there's coordination and cooperation going on there. In much the same way, you can go on Twitter today and find from reputable journalists who have posted pictures of the close contact between Hezbollah and the LAF. Not to mention, obviously, they're coordinating, even if you didn't have pictures and all the evidence, because they would be caught in a crossfire if they weren't. The two have been helping each other with IED explosions in the past day or two. They're working together.
Kamal,
it's strange to pretend
in Beirut,
otherwise.
let's just go to you for a moment. What is your take on that?
Well, he has to understand Lebanese politics, first of all. Obviously, we have a government headed by a prime minister and headed by a president. In that cabinet, there is member of Hezbollah in that cabinet. So there is no disagreement whether there is coordination or there is not a coordination. And the fact that Hezbollah is on the borderline, they're defending the border against Israel. There is a Lebanese army on the border. That's something is not, Lebanon is shy away from it. But the fact, your main point, whether the weapon that is provided by the United States is going to Hezbollah, that's a different story. But as far as coordination Obviously, there is a coordination in Lebanon between the Lebanese army as at least because those people, those ministers, those members of the parliament of Hezbollah, they are in the parliament, they are in the government, they are part of the decision making. So don't be surprised if there is a coordination. Hezbollah is not what President Trump stated, that the Lebanese government is fighting Daesh and Hezbollah. That's a stupid statement. Came from somebody who doesn't understand the politics of Lebanon and the Middle East.
Let me bring in Matthew Brodsky. He's in Washington. Surely that was an enormous foreign policy faux pas for Donald Trump to say that Lebanon was on the front line with terrorists such as Daesh and Hezbollah.
Clearly, absolutely. There's no doubt that President Trump doesn't understand the nuances of Lebanese politics or the Middle East. I'll grant you that one. In speaking to a senior White House official recently, they seem to view the LAF as existing on an ideological spectrum and that the U.S. can choose which units that it can give to, so not all of them are, in fact, loyal to Hezbollah. In their view, this one went on to tell me, is that if the Lebanese state should fall or Hezbollah should crumble at some point, it's better that the U.S. has someone to talk to. Stepping back from that, I would say I'm glad that your guest and I essentially agree. I'm not saying that the U.S. is giving weapons to Hezbollah. They're giving them to the LAF, but they're coordinating. And that's what he's confirming.
But of course,
so I think we basically agree on that. And what he's saying is that Hezbollah is in the parliament, which I grant you that. That's why the United States needs to update and review its policy.
And it's not just our guest, of course. The president of Lebanon, Michel Aoun, has been talking. And here's what he said about Hezbollah's need for weapons.
As long as there is an occupied land by Israel, and since the Lebanese army is not strong enough to fight Israel and stand in their face, then yes, of course, we feel the need to their presence. And it is complementary to the Lebanese army, and it does not contradict it, hence there is no resistance in our inner life. And only if you knew who Hezbollah is, Hezbollah are the southern residents. They are the residents of this land, and they protect their land when they are being swept by Israel.
Kamal Wasney, it's interesting. I mean, from our viewers' perspective, they may be wondering, who is the real army of Lebanon? Which force is really the most important and in charge? Which one would you say it is?
No. Basically, the main army of Lebanon is the Lebanese army, but the resistance actually exists side by side by the army to defend the country. And the fact that the land that was occupied by Israel was liberated by the resistance. That's nobody can deny it, and that's what the president of the country stated. Basically, that Hezbollah is side by side to defend the country against any Israeli aggression. The fact that somebody wanted to deny the threat that exists from the Israeli, nobody talk about that. The American give hundreds of billions of dollars to the Israeli, and those Israeli always have incursion against Lebanese sovereignty. So when you stop supplying weapons to the Israeli, then we can consider breaking down the resistance.
Kamal, has Hezbollah infiltrated the Lebanese army?
It hasn't looked fairly on the politics of the Middle East.
Would you say Hezbollah has managed to infiltrate and influence the Lebanese army?
No, Hezbollah does not need to infiltrate or influence the army. The army of Lebanon, actually, their position, their ideology is basically defending the territory of Lebanon. As long as the territory of Lebanon is not being jeopardized by any external threat, then there is no problem. Once that threat will come, then you're going to find what the mandate of basically what we call semi-agreement between the political party as part of an agreement that the people, the resistance, and the army will be fighting side by side against any aggression. Here, if you look at the threat that came from Daesh, Daesh was a threat against Lebanon, against the Arab world, against the world. The one who put the most fight against Daesh is, you have to like it or do not like it, is basically Hezbollah. And the one who funded Daesh is basically people from the Obama administration. At least that's what your president stated.
Matthew Brodsky?
Well, yeah, first of all, he's talking about fairness in the United States supplying Israel and him supplying and Hezbollah maintaining their weapons. Let's remember the UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which ended the 2006 war between Hezbollah and Israel, called for Hezbollah to disarm and for them not to be smuggling weapons in. Now, he is correct. The Obama administration pursued a policy that was to boost Iran in the entire region at the expense of America's traditional allies. So I'll grant you that. But what we have is the Trump administration, unfortunately, expanding that exact formulation right now. And so 1701, the resolution which was supposed to have the LAF have sovereignty over the entire country and Hezbollah disarm, Obama decided he was going to concentrate only on Sunni insurgents from Syria. So what this means now is, in the future, the way that resolution will be interpreted, and here's exactly what Hezbollah is going to do in the future. Since Israel withdrew from Lebanon in 2000, they don't occupy any land there. There's no rationale for Hezbollah to keep its weapons. This is, by the way, why they denied that they were even in Syria for the first few years of the civil war there. Now, they are, of course, claiming it, and that's fine. But going forward, what they're going to say is that they need to keep their weapons to fight the Sunni insurgents. That will be their new line, and hopefully the West won't buy it. Hopefully the Trump administration will correct Obama's bad policy.
Final word from you, Kamal Wasneh. Do you think the Trump administration will correct anything?
I think that the Trump administration is not capable of understanding what is taking place in the Middle East. The weapon of the resistance will be there, defending the country. That's not for aggression, that's for defense, deterrence. And the fight is not against the Sunnah or anything like he labeled it. It's against Daesh and terrorism. And everybody in agreement throughout the world that Daesh is a terrorist organization. We must be all fighting that. And if you don't understand that concept, please, you have to reread the politics of the Middle East, and we can do that.
Kamal Wasneh in Beirut and Matthew Brodsky in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, both of you, for your contribution to the Newsmakers.